You pulled up Zillow, saw what homes cost in Bozeman, maybe you even got a pre-approval letter, and now you're staring at a number that either feels impossible or like a huge stretch. Here's what most people don't hear. That pre-approval number isn't your safe number. In a lot of cases, it's a real trap. Buying at the top of your approval number in a market like this can put you in a spot where that ruins and runs your financial life instead of building the future you want. Today, I'm walking you through 3 real salary scenarios and showing you what each one actually gets you in this market. And at the end, I'm going to give you a simple formula that puts you back in the driver's seat. A little bit of context before we get into the numbers. The median home inside Bozeman city limits is at $795,000 right now. The broader valley is sitting at around $925,000. The city of Bozeman put out a report in 2025 that found you need to earn around $220,000 a year to comfortably afford the median home here. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it because the math has to come before you make a real decision. And right now, a lot of people are working off of the wrong number. The number on your pre-approval letter is what the bank is comfortable lending you. It's not the same thing as what you should actually spend. So let's start with scenario 1. This is one of the most common profiles I see in Bozeman. A teacher, a nurse, a local tech worker, someone who graduated from MSU and decided to stay. This is single income, $95,000 per year gross. After taxes, you're taking home roughly $5,900 per month. Most lenders will approve you at 35% of your gross income. At today's 6.5% average mortgage rate with Gallatin County property taxes and insurance built in, that puts your approval around $385,000. The monthly payment on that comes to roughly $2,430. That's 41% of your take home going to one bill every single month. Just because the bank signed off on $385,000 for a home, that doesn't mean it's the right number for you. 33% of $5,900 net is about $1,950 per month. That gets you into a $295,000 to $310,000 purchase price. And I know what you're thinking. You can't buy much in Bozeman for $300,000. In city limits, the options are very limited at that price. However, there are options, and especially if you're open to the Belgrade area, there are condos in that range that are move-in ready. And here's the thing, this is not your forever home. This is your first position. This is your stepping stone. You build equity here for 4 or 5 years, and then you move up. But that only works if you don't start out house poor. Scenario 2, this is probably a dual income household in their 30s or 40s. Maybe they've been renting in Bozeman and are ready to stop, or they bought something smaller a few years back and now they need more room. With a combined income of $160,000 after taxes, that's around $9,800 per month. And here's what the bank says. At a 35% gross debt to income ratio, the lender is going to approve you for around $650,000. With full taxes and insurance on the property, that's roughly $4,100 a month. 42% of your take-home pay. Some lenders may push 43 to 45% debt to income if your credit is solid and you have reserves. At 43%, you could see an approval of up to $800,000. That's a payment close to $5,000, more than half your take home before utilities, maintenance, or before anything else might come up. The bank isn't living in your house. Your car payment, your kids' activities, what happens if one income goes away for 6 months? None of those are factored into the bank's model. So here's a smart number. 33% of $9,800 is about $3,230 per month. That gets you close to $500,000 to $525,000 as a purchase price. In Bozeman, that range gets you into condos and townhomes in established neighborhoods, both on the south side, but especially on the west side. And in Belgrade, $525,000 gets you into a entry-level single-family home. Might need a little bit work, but in areas that are expanding rapidly. Or in Belgrade, that gets you into a newer 3 or 4 bedroom, high quality townhome. And Four Corners has some solid condo and townhome options as well, with a little bit more of an open space feeling than you get inside Bozeman city limits. The gap here between the bank's number and the smart number is about $125,000 in purchase price, or roughly $870 less per month. Over 5 years, that's more than $50,000 staying in your pocket. Wealth comes from keeping the gap between your income and expenses wide enough for your money to actually work for you. Keep yourself a large cash buffer and learn to invest the difference. And for scenario 3, this is a more established household. A seasoned professional, a business owner, or a dual income couple where both careers are fully established. Maybe relocating from California, Colorado, Texas with equity to bring. $250,000 combined, and after taxes, around $15,000 a month. At a 35% debt to income, you're approved around $1 million. At 43%, some lenders might push that to $1.2 million. The full payment on $1 million home at 6.5% with property tax and insurance is roughly $6,600 per month, or 44% of your take home before you've touched utilities or maintenance. High earners fall into this category more than you'd think. The approval number feels right, it feels safe, and the homes at that price are genuinely beautiful. But smart math doesn't care about the finishes of your home. 33% of $15,000 is about $4,950 per month. And that lands you at a purchase price around $775,000 to $795,000. Here's what's interesting about that. $795,000 is exactly the Bozeman median. And as you start exploring this market, you'll find that's where the most activity always is. It's the price point where there's consistently the most inventory, but also the most realistic sellers. Above $1 million, days on market stretch out and price reductions are the most common. At this median price, you're right where the market is actually moving. In Bozeman, that's a solid 4-bedroom home in a well-established neighborhood. And in Belgrade or the south side of the valley, that gets you into a new or newer construction home with a real sized lot. The 33% net rule formula is straightforward. First, take your actual monthly take-home pay, not your gross pay. That's the number that actually hits your account after taxes, retirement contributions, insurance, all of it. Then divide that by 3. That's your ceiling for your housing payment. And your housing payment means principal, interest, property taxes, and homeowner's insurance. Keep that total at or under a third of your take-home pay, and you've got enough to actually live your life, to save, to handle whatever comes up, because something always does. Lenders use gross income in a higher ratio because it gets them the biggest loan they can issue. The 33% net rule runs on different logic. It protects your cash flow so your money keeps working for you. So who's at risk and who has a real opportunity in our market? Buyers coming in from coastal markets are the most exposed and the most at risk. They're used to high housing costs, so $4,500 a month payment feels familiar. But Montana property taxes, insurance rates, and the maintenance that comes with a home at this price point and in our environment are real expensive that don't show up in that comparison. And sellers anchored to 2022 prices are in a real tough spot. The average sale to list ratio in Bozeman is 94.8%. If you're priced 10% or even 5% above where the market actually is, you won't get that back over time. You'll just keep sitting there, and by then, you'll probably have to bring the price down lower than where you should have started the price to begin with. But for buyers who've done the math and know their real numbers, this is one of the better windows to buy in years. Inventory is higher than it's been since 2011. Sellers are negotiating. The frantic multiple offer environment is gone. You can actually inspect a home, think it over, and make a decision that makes sense for your life. And for move-up buyers with equity already built in the Gallatin Valley, the question isn't really whether you can move up. It's whether you have a sequence that makes it clean. That's a planning question, and that's something we can work through together. Whatever your scenario, start with the 33% net rule before you ever sit down with a lender. Know your real number before someone else tells you what you're approved for. Then look at what number actually gets you in across the valley. Bozeman, Belgrade, Four Corners, south of the valley, maybe even farther west into Manhattan and Three Forks. Each area can have a wildly different value at the same price point. And if your safe number doesn't buy you the home you want right now, that is not a good reason to stretch your budget. It's the reason to build a real plan. The people who built real wealth through Bozeman real estate weren't the ones that pushed the hardest and stretched the furthest on their first home purchase. They bought smart and then they moved when the time was right. If you want your specific numbers, the link to book a call is in the description. Bring your income, your savings, and your goals. We'll figure out what the smart number actually looks like for you. Which of these scenarios is closest to yours? Drop it in the comments.